Hello and welcome or welcome back to the Import Export Hub channel, everybody. Bias Bogdan here, your not so entertaining host for the next couple of minutes. Thanks for joining in. I hope everything is fine. And guys, without losing too much precious time here, let's take a look at 5 products that are worth importing from Moldova. And the first one is coming from heading 2009, so fruit juices, from which Moldova managed to export some $69 million in 2022, mostly to the United States, the Russian Federation, and Poland here, all above the $10 million mark. But as you can see, there are other second tier export destinations like, I don't know, Canada, Austria, or Mexico. This last one with some $1.6 million worth of imports from Moldova. In terms of year-on-year dynamics, we have an overall positive change of 50% in relative terms, translating into some $23 million in absolute ones, thanks to the good figures coming from the US, Canada, and also Austria. While on the other side, we have 2 countries here who saw their imports from Moldova shrunk. So Poland is the first one with some $3.2 million fewer imports, while the second one is Germany with some $1.7 million fewer imports in 2022 relative to 2021. As for the main drivers here, we see that for both the United States and Austria, we have the same subheading, 200979. So we are talking about unfermented apple juice, where Moldova already started to build a competitive advantage and where it managed to add a little bit of added value locally. So basically, if you're working in this kind of business, Moldova could be a good place to start sourcing for apple juice and apple juice concentrated. Moving now, guys, to my second recommendation here, we have heading 1512, sunflower seed oil, from which Moldova managed to export almost $368 million in 2022, some $249 million more relative to the previous year, with Italy here, Romania, and also Iran as the main destinations, which were followed by others like, I don't know, Spain, Portugal, or Germany, to name just a few from this top 10 list, which represents roughly some 96% of Moldova's overall exports from this heading. Now, guys, don't get fooled by the huge increase that took place in 2022. As I like to say, data is crucial, but context is king. And here, context is very, very important, as this increase is related with what happened in Ukraine at the beginning of 2022, so February 2022, to be more precise. And basically, I think that the Ukrainian businesses exported a lot of their sunflower seeds to other destinations in order to process and obtain oil. As Moldova is Ukraine's neighbor, close neighbor, and my guess is that it's only logical for the Ukrainian businessmen to partnership with some processors in Moldova and then export the final product from here. And because of this context, Moldova became an export gateway for Ukraine, basically. In 2023, so this year, I'm almost sure that we won't see the same figures for Moldova, as Ukraine partially regained control of its critical logistics capabilities, at least on the ground. But this doesn't mean that Moldova doesn't have a competitive advantage in this field. As you can see here, all the top 10 partners had positive changes, the largest absolute one happening in relation with Italy, who managed to increase its imports from Moldova with some $68 million. But good figures are coming also from Romania and Iran. So $62 million for the former and some $63 million for the latter, which is really impressive if you ask me. As for the main drivers, we see that crude sunflower seed oil or safflower oil is the main one for both Romania and Spain. So we are talking about subheading 151211. Jumping now, guys, to my third recommendation. We have heading 2204, wine of fresh grapes, from which Moldova managed to export some $127 million in 2022, with Romania, Belarus, and Poland as their main destinations, which were followed by others like, I don't know, Georgia, China, or Turkey. Again, to mention just a couple from this top 10 list. And overall, we see that the export concentration of these top 10 partners is roughly at 79%. A little bit lower than the previous two chapters. A lot of these partners importing from Moldova, as they have price-sensitive consumers back home, and unfortunately, Moldova still lags in terms of price positioning or value proposition, given the top quality of their wines. And if you ask me, the same goes true for, I don't know, Romania or Georgia, for example, who, let's face it, can compete with French or Italian wines when it comes to the price premium they could ask. Anyways, in terms of year-on-year dynamics, so changes, it seems that the exports suffered a contraction overall, some $14.5 million in absolute terms. And we see that only 3 countries had positive changes. So we're talking about Romania, Belarus, and Turkey, while the rest of 7 suffered from contractions. The largest absolute one happening in relation with the Russian Federation, some $6 million fewer imports from Moldova relative to 2021. As for the main drivers, well, Romanian importers were focusing on wine from fresh grapes in containers less than 2 liters, while those from United Kingdom focused on the same product, but in containers equal or larger than 10 liters, so the well-known wine boxes. Moving now, guys, to my 4th recommendation. We have here heading 7010, so Carboys, bottles and other glassware, with some $60 million worth of exports in 2022, mostly towards Romania, Greece, and Italy, which make up for roughly 70% of the overall exports from this heading, while the rest of 7 countries make up for the other 17%. Relative to the year-on-year changes, we see an increase of almost $31 million in absolute terms, thanks to the strong performances coming from Greece and Romania, especially Romania with its $12.2 million absolute positive change. As for the main drivers, well, for both Greece and Italy, we have the same one, so subheading 710190. And lastly, guys, my 5th recommendation comes from heading 0802. We are talking about other nuts, fresh or dried, which sadly saw a decline in the last 5 years. But my guess is that this is just a transition period, and basically we have $50 million worth of exports for 2022, which is 1.5% less than in 2021. With France here, Germany, and the Netherlands as the main partners, which were followed by others like, I know, Turkey, United Kingdom, or Belgium, to name just a few from this top 10 list. Now, relative to the year-on-year dynamics, we see a 50-50 split between positive and negative change. And guys, I will mention just the performers. So on the negative side, the performer was France, a traditional partner for Moldova, by the way, for this heading at least, who imported with some $2 million less than in 2021, while on the other side of the table, so we have the positive side, Turkey managed to import with some $2.5 million more. in 2022, bringing the Turkish imports from this heading from Moldova to some $3.9 million overall. As for the main drivers, well, for both France and the United Kingdom, here we have the same subheading 080232. So we are talking about shelled walnuts, fresh or dried. And guys, with this being said, that's all for today's episode. Thanks for watching. I hope you've liked it. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe buttons. And as usual, until next time, keep your business safe. Thanks.